to the Triple Threat Podcast. My name is William and Ishan, and today we are going to be breaking down the NBA so far. So before we get into that, just two quick things to do just our Patreon. If you want to support us down there, me a lot. This is the best way to support the channel. We'll be doing Patreon only box breaks soon. Hopefully you get enough. And other than that, just subscribe. It means a lot to us. We put a lot of work into this, and just seeing some support or seeing a like or just seeing anything means a lot to us. So that's it. We won't waste your time any further. So let's get right into our main topic of discussion. We have the Phoenix Suns and their red hot start. Ishan, tell me how the Suns have been the best team in the NBA so far.
All right, so they're sitting at 5-1 right now, number one in the West, and tied for the number one record in the NBA with Philly. And I think the best place to start right now is Monty Williams. We were pretty high on him, or very high on him, coming into the season as a coach. We all know what he was capable with, especially in the bubble. But he has really been playing well, and he's been distributing the ball out so well. Devin Booker is the only player above 20 points, right? Scoring above 20 points. And the next highest scorer is Mikal Bridges at 15. Then there's Cameron Johnson at 14, CP3 at 13, Aiden at 12, Crowder at 11, Payne at 9, Saric at 8. So they've been able to distribute the ball really well. And while the offensive side of the ball has been great, CP3 has been that leader. He's been getting the ball out to his wings. Cameron Johnson's been shooting really well from three, 42% on 6 attempts. Bridges has been shooting 50% on 6 attempts and is having historically one of the most efficient seasons of all time. Mikal Bridges, I don't think he's going to sustain that, but as of right now, he's been playing out of his mind. Jay Crowder, 34% from 3, 6 attempts. Cam Payne, 2.5 attempts, 47% from 3. So you get the deal. It's Chris Paul kicking it out to his wings. They're getting the 3 ball. They're hitting it. And that's really what's driving this offense. But while the offense has been good, it is the defense. And the guy that I really want to talk about in particular is Mikal Bridges, because he has been something else defensively. Like, in the bubble, he played like an all-defense level player. But right now, he is looking like a member of the all-defense first team. So I have 5 players that he's played against: Donovan Mitchell, Brandon Ingram, Luka Doncic, Buddy Hield, and De'Aaron Fox. All 5 are very talented offensive players. Donovan Mitchell, Bridges held him to 3% shooting in 30 possessions. Brandon Ingram, 2 for 4 shooting in 25 possessions. Doncic, 4 for 7 in 24 possessions. Hield 0 for 3 in 17 possessions, and Fox 1 for 5 in 16 possessions. He is locking up every opponent's best or second best offensive talent from the 1 to the 4, and he is effectively doing so. I have not seen elite defense like this from a Phoenix player pretty much in my entire time watching basketball. Mikal Bridges is the defensive anchor of this team. This team is second in net rating and, most importantly, second in defensive rating, and you can attribute that to Bridges because he has been playing like a most improved player candidate, a all-defense candidate. And I think that if his offensive game kind of expands a little bit, if he can create his own shot off the dribble, and learn to pass a little bit, we could be seeing an all-star 2-3 years down the line. That's how much I love Mikal Bridges.
You're right about that one thing. His passing is probably his only weakness at this point. Less than an assist per game, and for a team like Phil, like Phoenix, that's just a team basketball plays. It's really surprising how low that number is. But I mean, he's got 0 turnovers on the entire season, so that is just incredible.
Yeah, that is something else. But I think Phoenix has been red hot. Monty Williams is looking like the early favorite for Coach of the Year. Wings have been great. And I think, as you said it, team basketball.
I mean, look at their wings. I said before the season, the reason I like this team so much is their wings are versatile and they are terrific. They are deep and they can do everything. Cam Payne really turned it on last season. In the bubble, I know he's not technically a wing, he's a point guard, but he's been just great coming off the bench. Jay Crowder, Saric, Bridges have been phenomenal. Jalen Smith's had some decent action in there. I thought Langston Galloway's been really solid off the bench. I mean, overall, this team is playing with so much just camaraderie. They've all bonded behind Monty Williams. They've gone behind identity. DeAndre Ayton's only averaging 12 points a game. He's a first overall pick. He's like, all right, I'll put my success to the side, and we're just gonna win as a team because you know what? That's what basketball's about, and that's why this team's been great. Booker said, you know what? Fine, I'm not gonna average 27. I'll average 20, but I'll be 5-1. So they've all put their egos to the side. I think a lot of that comes with Chris Paul and just him being such a leader, such a great player,
Hmm.
leading by example. Only 13 points a game for someone like Chris Paul. I mean, he can obviously average more. I mean, he
Definitely.
is what third in the NBA in assists. I mean, he's just been the anchor of that. Just he's been a great leader for that team. I'm happy I picked Monty for coach of the year at this point.
Yeah, I'm kind of regretting who did I pick? Oh, I
Uh,
picked Brad
yeah,
Stevens.
you did.
So like it's a pretty predictable one, but Monty Williams has been out of his mind. And if you look at all of the good, recently successful teams, Miami, for example, they've had an abundance of wing talent that can shoot the ball and play defense. Jay Crowder, literally coming from Miami, Hero, Duncan Robinson, Kendrick Nunn, if you want to put him at the shooting guard, and then obviously Jimmy Butler, who has been playing, who played out of his mind in the bubble. So if you look at teams like that, I think that Phoenix, in a way, is trying to replicate that with their wing depth. You have the one-star wing, which is Devin Booker. Then you have a whole bunch of 3-and-D guys that can rotate, that can guard multiple positions, and that can play multiple positions around Booker. And then you have a playmaking point guard and a nice big, and you really have a good recipe for a sustainable team that can make a deep run in the playoffs. And as crazy as this sounds, I can see Phoenix in the conference finals.
Yeah. So moving on from the best team in the West, a team that's been struggling to say the least, especially if shooting the basketball. So a completely different side of the scale. The Golden State Warriors. They are sitting right now at 2-3, and they've been blown out on every single loss. What have you made of the Golden State Warriors start so far? And more importantly, can they turn it around?
So I actually wrote an article about Golden State right now, and more about Steve Kerr, if anything, in triplethreatpodcast.com. I know it's a bit of a plug, but definitely go check out that article. And that article, I talked about how valuable Klay Thompson is because he is more of just a three. He's more of a 3-and-D guy, but he's like him and Steph Curry are like Devonte Adams type guys. They are elite route running receivers. If you translated that to basketball, they are off ball. They're so dangerous in the off ball. They can pick out spots. They can pick out the exact hot sweet spots that they can get to. They get to him, and then they just shoot off of that. It's like Devonte Adams running a crisp route, getting a nice catch, and then taking it to the house. That's how that's how I look at Golden State and how off-ball movement is so integral into their system. And so when you replace Klay Thompson with Kelly Oubre and Andrew Wiggins, who number one cannot execute, they could maybe get to that off-ball spot, but they can't hit the shot. They're inefficient. And number two, they don't have the defensive prowess or really just the off-ball capabilities and ability to fit into Steve Kerr's system. That makes me really worried because now Steve Kerr is forced to do two things: change his system for a year and hope that Klay Thompson can either readjust or he has to readjust once more, or one of those guys, hopefully Wiggins instead of Oubre. I think Oubre is a little bit more talented. They need to just be shipped out. And I think the perfect guy to come in is Buddy Hield. He's a shooter. He's efficient. He works with high volume. When he's in a faster paced offense, that's when he really thrives. He has a good point guard around him already in De'Aaron Fox, but Stephen Curry is obviously an upgrade. And I think that he could really add a whole tremendously insane aspect to his game if he can master off-ball movement in Golden State. And that will make him a much more sexy free agent once his contract comes up.
Yeah, I think both of us liked the fit of Kelly Oubre in Golden State, just with his tenacity on the defensive end, his hustle, what that would bring to the team. But when you have three guys that are both, you have Draymond, you have Oubre, and you have Wiggins, and none of them fit in that system. I mean, you can the system can fit one of those guys, and that's been Draymond Green, the one guy that's been like, all right, I'm the defensive guy. I'll sit back. That's my role. I'll play defense. I'll let you guys take over the offense. I'll be here if you need me. So
Mhm.
when they take in a guy like Kelly Oubre, who plays that pretty similar role, and that's what I thought his role would be on this team. I mean, he's been putting up way too many shots for my liking, especially with that inefficiency. I mean, at some point you have to recognize, oh, you know what? I can't hit a three to save my life. Maybe I should pass it to someone else. Um, and then Wiggins, he's so on and off. He can have a 27-point game and then a 2 of 12 shooting night. I mean,
Yeah.
he, the inconsistencies and the inefficiencies of those two players and just having both of them. I think Golden State would be fine if they had just Wiggins or Oubre, but I think having two inconsistent players is just really damaging to this team as a whole. So I still think this team has a chance to get back, but they need someone to help Curry because Curry has not been able to thrive. He is as you said, the ball movement has not been, the off ball movement has not been great. The ball movement has not been great. He's just kind of been just standing behind the 3 point line, just walking around, trying to get something going. Can't get
Mhm.
anything, can't find some space. I mean, they have to play with more pace. They have to play with more intensity. They have to, I think a change in system is necessary just to benefit all the players because when you're trying to appeal to Steph Curry and it's not working, I mean, I think that you have to. This time for something else. I mean, this team has changed dynamically. Wiseman, Draymond, Oubre, and Wiggins does not fit the system that they have with Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Steph
Mhm.
Curry. So I think it's time for a change. I think Steve Kerr's going to have to recognize that. But this team definitely has the talent to make the playoffs for sure. I don't even think that's a question. They easily can make the playoffs if something changes soon. But
Yeah.
I mean, the way they're playing, they don't deserve it.
On paper, this team is very good, and they are a just purely on paper at least a top six team in the West. But I think the fit is questionable. And the other thing, my other reservation with Oubre is he does not have that vocal leader or playmaking ability that Draymond Green has. And because of that, I once again question his fit as the defensive guy. Because Draymond would average 7 to 8 assists per game as a power forward, and he would be that leader. He'd be getting everyone together. For a lot of the young guys, they looked up to Draymond, which is something crazy, in my opinion. Like, how do you look up to Draymond Green? But he was the guy setting the tone, and he really was the energy of that team. And I don't think that Oubre has that. And then the other thing is, Curry. It's pretty. I think this season is evident that Curry does need a second All Star caliber player. He needs another primary ball handler to get him into that off ball, to get him into those off ball spaces. And Thompson and Green kind of combined gave him that ability, and then Durant came in and really helped him out even more. But I think that once Draymond is Draymond back,
He's back. He played
yeah.
last
If
game.
Draymond kind of gets back into the swing of things, and hopefully next year, if Klay Thompson comes back, even as 80% of the guy he was a few years ago,
I mean, he just needs to shoot, so that doesn't really matter.
yeah, I think that will really help Curry a lot because you can't. I'd rather leave Andrew Wiggins open and let him shoot a stupid shot than to cover up on him and then have Curry move around in the off ball where he can get an easy pass and then chuck up an almost guaranteed three. So there needs to be another ball handler or some kind of all star player. Either schematic or roster changes need to be made for Golden State to compete. And if not, 2021 is a damn good draft class, so they're not in the worst luck. They're not in the worst situation possible.
Yeah, I mean, I would compare it to, I don't know the great analogy, but say you have what Tyreek Hill. You put two men on him, you bump him up the line of scrimmage, you double team him, you play press down the field. You can limit him, but you need someone else. The defense has to key in on that. You just can't go, all right, let's get the best player. He's not going to play well. Somebody needs to step up. So I think what they need to do is just have someone else be able to scare the defense. And
Yeah, because there's no Travis Kelsey here.
there's no Travis Kelce, there's no Sammy Watkins, there's no Clyde Edwards-Helaire. There's no one else that the defense has to worry about.
Yeah.
So that's really been why Curry's not doing well. So Kerr and Curry have to go down, sit down with Wiggins and with Oubre and say, all right, 10 hours of shooting straight. Come on, let's hit something here. Like, how do you go over 7 on layups? Like Kelly, come on,
Yeah.
man.
Like
So
even I don't go over 7 on layups. I'm not
uh,
even a rec league all-star.
let's move on to Milwaukee, one of the best teams in the East. What have you made of Milwaukee start this season?
So Milwaukee currently is 3-3, sitting at 500. They've had some really great wins that win over Golden State, but then there are other times where their weaknesses have really been exposed. I think a lot of that goes with depth. I think for a long time I was never really sold on Milwaukee's depth. I was never sold on guys like DJ Wilson. The only guy I was really sold on was George Hill because I know how efficient he is. And now looking at Milwaukee, these new role players don't really fit the defensive scheme, and they don't they don't have that defensive ability that Wes Matthews and George Hill brought to the table. And then the shaky role players, they have minimal assets. This really makes me worry about their future because you can't just have three all-stars. And they do have three all-star level players, Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday. And all three have been playing pretty well. But you need other guys to supplement them. Lopez has done a good job. DiVincenzo at times has done a good job. But then besides that, no one else has really played out of their minds. Bobby Portis has not been the guy that I really wanted him to be. He hasn't taken that defensive leap. Bryn Forbes is not a good defender. And so this really just makes me wonder, will Giannis grow unhappy or will there be some kind of implosion? Because in that Drew Holiday trade, they lost a lot of their recent assets, and it's going to be hard to recover from a trade like that and still not be the top team.
Boy, would I love a collapse there.
Why?
Because we have their picks.
Oh, yeah, you do. Are they protected?
No. We
All
have
right, then.
2 pick swaps, 2 picks, all unprotected. So would love a unhappy Giannis. So let's hope that they keep trying the Golden State model because Golden State model only works if you have like elite Steph Curry, Kevin Durant players. And
Yeah.
so I think you see these current teams. It's all about depth. Phoenix, Miami. I mean, you look at one of the best teams in the East right now. You have the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, it's all about fit, schematics. That's the current NBA model. It's not about all-stars. It's not about superstars. It's about fit. And that's where the league's headed. And that's the best part of the NBA, in my opinion. It's not just the
Hmm.
all-stars. It's not the super teams. It's the team with the fit, the grit. That's how I like basketball to be played.
Yeah.
And the team that's embodied that, the fit and grit, it's the grit and grind Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, that's not their motto anymore, but that's still they're still a pretty gritty team overall. But they lost their best player for 2 to 3 weeks, I believe. What have you made of the John Moran injury?
So I think that they're in a pretty tough situation now. This time, unlike the last, it seems like ages at this point, but they have their first rounder. They don't have to give it to Boston. And this makes me wonder. Morant was set to be out 3 to 5 weeks, and this was from a week ago, so I guess 2 to 4 now. And that could mean about 12 to 17 games off. And that is about a fifth of the season. And then you have to think about Jaren Jackson. He had a really tough injury, and it's going to take a while for him to recover. So do they kind of go that route of, you know what? Let's rest up a little bit, prepare for next season. Instead of making a playoff push, we kind of sludge towards the 12, 13 seed and try to get another guy that can fit well or another microwave scorer to complement John Morant's playmaking ability. And I think you have that in Jalen Green. You have that in even Brandon Boston. He's been inefficient, but he's been playing well. Terrence Clark, let's see, even Evan Mobley, Jonathan Kaminga. So there are a lot of guys just coming out of high school and college right now that could really fit that microwave scorer role. Green is probably at the forefront of it. So do you think that they should just take a little bit of a rest, take a step back, and kind of build for next season? Or should they keep on pushing for this season with Morant's injury and Jaren's hopefully a quick recovery, but I don't think it's going to be that was a tough injury, so I don't think he's going to be in full strength until the pretty much the end of the season.
Here's my philosophy. I mean, as Ricky Bobby said, if you're not first, you're last. There's no point in trying if you're not going to do anything. I mean, position yourself for the future. I mean, you're not going to make the playoffs. You're going to have a 10-game disadvantage when you have your team full strength, or even 15 for being realistic. You're you're going to be way out of the picture by the time you get your players back. I mean, always play with pride. Play with intensity. Never take any games off because that's how you're going to stagnate development. You need to develop players. You got to be smart about it. You can't rush John Morant back. Give him 6 weeks. Give him maybe 7 weeks. Don't put him back in the court because he relies off his dynamism, off his athleticism. If you rush him back too soon, I just worry what you could do for his future. So they have the ability to sit him down, wait for Jaren Jackson to get healthy too, and then put them back at the same time, ease them back into the schedule, ease them back in. You have the luxury of time. You have all the time. And what does this team need? They need a wing. They need versatile, athletic, scoring wings. I mean, their current situation, they've got their point guard of the future. They've got their four of the future. They need to get their 2 and 3. And that's the first thing that I would do right now. So
I think Clark can be the 3 though.
yeah, Clark would be the 3, but they need a 2. They need
Yeah.
that microwave
Jalen
scorer, as you were saying.
Yeah.
So my philosophy would be give it 7 weeks. And then after that, ease it back in and just play with pride, play with intensity, work on development. Don't worry about the results. You don't need them. They just need to get something going for the future because right now they don't have all the assets. They don't have that young core like some of the teams behind them. Like you can look at some of the teams in the NBA. You go, all right, the Thunder. I mean, they have less talent than the Grizzlies, but maybe a team like the Timberwolves, they've got much more talent. They've got much more to work with. San Antonio has much more to work with. The Pelicans have way more to work with. Like the teams ahead of them in the playoff contention have a lot more young pieces to work around. I mean, they really only have 3 young pieces that I'd go, all right, that's someone who's going to be on the team in 5 years. Someone that I can build a franchise around because I know they've got a lot of good players, but you think about it, is there anyone behind Brandon Clark that's going to be on a championship contending team in 5 years from this Memphis Grizzlies team? I mean, I'd say no, but you know more about basketball than I do. So
I think Dylan Brooks is really the only other option as a shooter.
mm-hmm.
But besides that, Valanciunas is getting older, and while he's a very valuable player and just an elite rebounder and a really good post defender, he's 28, 29, maybe even 30 at this point. So I think 5 years down the line, he's going to be way past his prime. So they really got to be looking at the future. They've rebuilt this team really well, especially with the assets that with the cards that they've been dealt. They weren't always dealt the greatest odds, having all those picks go to Boston and having Boston just stockpile on assets. But with what they've done a really good job. Don't get me wrong with that. Clark, Jackson, and John Morant are 3 players that you can build a championship level team around. And now they just got to get one more guy and then just round out the team with players that really fit their system. You have a 3-and-D big man, which is pretty rare, and he looks to be probably the best 3-and-D big man in the league going forward. And then you have an explosive, defensive-minded, floor-spacing wing/power forward who looks to make big plays. And then you have an athletic, exciting, pass-first, but still an elite scoring point guard that can just go off at any given moment. We've seen how good Morant is. So I think that they just got to have one more piece, and then you just got to build a team around them. They need to look at their coaching staff. Who is their current coach? David Yeager, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or Taylor Jenkins. You need to evaluate him. So it's just a matter of time. I think that people were really hyping them up because of how good Morant took them to last year, but you don't want to be stuck in no man's land. That's the worst state. And with the talent and the assets that they have, they should definitely not be stuck in no man's land because you could really build a championship contender 5 years down the line from what they have right now.
I mean, I can't even remember what the trade is. I mean, I know there was the Jeff Green trade, but what all has been just done. Like it seems like there's been like 20 draft picks that the Boston has had from. Like I don't even know how they had so many picks. Like it just seems like every year, like they even have future draft considerations from them in that what was Dennis Cantor trade? I don't even
Yeah.
know.
So I
It's
think what happened was I think it was like two protected picks, but I think they were top five protected. So when Memphis took Jackson at 4 in 2018, and then they took Morant at 2 in 2019. That pick just kept on going and going, and then finally they were at 14 in 2020, and Boston got Neesmith. Unfair.
yeah. Well, let's talk about Boston and more specifically Jalen Brown and Kimba Walker. I know this is going to be your favorite, well, your second favorite topic of today. So talk about Kimba Walker and this Boston Celtics team.
So the return is a little bit delayed now. I don't know the exact timetable yet for Kemba Walker. It's a stem cell injection in his knee, so that is a pretty like scary treatment. And prayers up to him because he is a very talented player. But as of right now, Boston, while 3-3, has looked good in some areas, and then they've choked a couple of close games, and they've won a couple close games. But offensively, Boston right now ranks 13th in offensive efficiency, which is pretty much offensive rating. And I think that with Kemba back, that number will definitely increase. And that'll open up more opportunities for Jason Tatum, who we know has been playing very well. But another guy that I just wrote an article about that you guys should go check out is Jaylen Brown. And if there's one thing that this man does, he develops and adds new levels to his game every single year. So in college, he shot 29% from three, and he was looked at as more of a defensive, athletic freak type of guy. And then year one in Boston, 34%, year two, 40%, year three, 38%. And now I'm going to pull up his basketball reference, but on like really high volume, he's shooting upwards of 40%. So shout out to Jaylen Brown. I feel like that has to do with his mentality, his academic background, the fact that he has this ability to learn, his self awareness, and that's what separates him from guys like Ben Simmons and Giannis, who also had project level jump shots. He is a very smart guy. He wants to learn. He wants to get better, and that's exemplified in his, you know, chess background, the fact that he's taking classes, graduate level classes at Harvard and MIT, arguably the two top institutions in the world. And that when he was at Cal, he chose Cal because he wanted, better academics instead of going to UNC or Kentucky. He wanted to go to a more academic foundation type school.
Could have gone Duke.
Yeah, Duke too. Actually, yeah, I think Duke is ranked higher than Cal.
I
But
would assume so. I think they're like 7 or 6.
yeah, but this is Triple Threat Podcast, not College Board. So, but look at Brown. I think that down the line, this might be a hot take. He will be the best player in Boston. I wrote this in the article too. Right now, he's averaging 28 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists on 57% from the field on 19 attempts. And then 38% from three, so not 40, my bad, on 5.3 attempts. And then a little bit of a weakness, but around 70% from the line on 5 attempts. I think that he will kind of kink that out as the season goes on. The free throw shooting ability and his playmaking ability aren't the best, but there have been strides in both areas. So that's why I think he will be the most complete player on Boston with his defense. He has to guard the best defensive player on every team pretty much, and he is the second best defender behind Marcus Smart on a top 5 defensive Boston team. So I will stop raving about Jaylen Brown. I love Jaylen Brown. I think that he has that all around ability, and if he bumps up the playmaking, he could be an all NBA first team type player. And I can't believe I'm saying that. But that's the kind of growth that he's had, his mindset, his growth, his self awareness, and just his production, his ability to use his athleticism and his frame have really proven to me that he is an all NBA level player right now and will be going 5, 7 years down the line.
So you said first team. That's the thing I'd like to point out. So who are the guards that he would get in over for that spot? Do you think he has it over James Harden right now? Because that's kind of who he's vying with. Does his reliability or maybe team impact or maybe just personality get him that spot over someone like James Harden, who just
Oh wait. I don't have him as first team right now, but
oh yeah sure
yeah, I have him as like maybe second or third, probably third, but maybe 3 to 4 years down the line, once all the guards kind of, peak and they're starting to regress. Curry regresses, LeBron regresses.
LeBron's not a
Jay-
guard. I mean, I don't know what LeBron is. He's everything.
Harden regresses. I think that Jaylen Brown could kind of creep into that next wave of guys. Or right now, he's been playing the majority of his minutes at small forward, so he goes in as a forward. So there's a lot of versatility there. I'm gonna have to stop raving about Jaylen Brown. That could be a whole episode in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And Jaylen Brown, if you're watching this, please send us an email. We'd love to have you on. But another guy.
Well, who's someone who I'd like to have on the podcast, Christian Wood. We are the president of the Christian Wood fan club. And
yes, we are.
Here's one thing about me. When I see his stats, I'm like, yeah, okay, it's Christian Wood stats. I mean, he's always been doing this. But I guess people haven't realized that this is what Christian Wood does. Christian Wood is a 20 and 15 kind of guy.
15?
Well, more like 13, but he can get 15.
Wait, is he averaging 13 rebounds?
I think he is.
Wait, Houston. Keep talking. I gotta take a look at this.
Well, I'll keep talking right now while you're doing that because he's averaging 10 right now, 11 basically. So Christian Wood is an absolute stud. And when we see 24, 10, and 2 and 2, we're like, okay, that's Christian Wood. That's what you're gonna get with Christian Wood. But the thing is that we are the strange basketball fans that watches Detroit, watches the AD-less Pelicans. We're the people that will enjoy bad basketball and try and see the one good player on that team that no one else does. And so when I hear MIP talk, I'm like, all right. I mean, he's doing the same thing he's done. Now he's just on a better team and having more usage. So, I mean, I can see it, but I've been so high on him throughout his career that I mean, it's hard for me to see the whole MIP talk because I mean I've always thought of him as a great player. He's an all-level player in my opinion. Christian Wood finally getting the recognition he deserves. He's an absolute stud. Just Ishan, tell me about this Houston Rockets team because him and John Wall have been two of the best offseason additions any team has made, if not the best offseason addition, the best two offensive off-season additions any team has made because I can't think of one.
I think that at this point, with a big three of John Wall and Christian Wood, I don't know why Harden would still want out of Houston because they're in a very good situation. With the two games that Wall's played in, they've both won. He's gotten their offensive rating up to 10th in the league, and I think that will still skyrocket probably into the top 5. And he has just been John Wall has been the engine behind this team. He is scoring. He's making plays. He's not the most efficient from 3, 25% from 3, but he's never been a 3-point shooter. He's been great. I love it. 25 points, 8 assists. He does need to work on the turnovers because he has 5 turnovers a game. Harden has 5 turnovers a game. And that's just not going to cut it because you can't be playing sloppy basketball, especially in the Western Conference where every win really matters. So I think that if Wall cuts down on the turnovers and stays, I really hope, healthy and his, quick style play doesn't affect his Achilles even more, I think that, would you call him an all-star?
Oh, for sure. He's been great offensively and defensively. 2 steals, 1.5 blocks. As he said, he is probably the best shot blocking point guard, unless you count Ben Simmons, obviously. So he is just a special kind of player, just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, he's been great shooting 25% from 3, as you mentioned, on 5 turnovers, and he's still been great. Like, that just tells you how much of a player he can be. And just way he can work himself back from injury, he can be a 27-9 kind of guy. I mean, I truly believe that. I mean, he's 25 and 7.5 right now. So who's to say he's not going to be able to take more of the offensive load? Eric
Mhm.
Gordon has been good this season as well. I mean, I don't think there's a better situation for James Harden in the entire league. Like he could walk on to what the Suns roster, and they'd be a worse. I don't know if they'd be a worse team, but they wouldn't be a exponentially better team because of it. I mean, he has a great fit here. I don't
For the
know.
assets that Phoenix would have to give up, it doesn't really make logical sense. Like if it ain't broke, why try to fix it? Because that's just going
I
to be
was just
more
saying, like
detrimental.
hypothetically, if you just dropped him on that team, I don't know if
Yeah.
they'd be better because I mean, James Harden, you're in the probably the best spot you can possibly be in. You're 2-0 with Wall. Stay. I mean, you're in a great fit. Just just relax.
So the next team that we should talk about is New Orleans, and I'll let you talk about these guys because you've watched the majority of their games. Brandon Ingram has really come into his own. Defense has been improving. I think they are. Let me see. They are somewhere towards the top.
They're
Oh,
fifth
they
right now, I think.
yeah, they're fourth or fifth right now in defensive efficiency, which is defensive rating. So they're looking really good. Tell me about New Orleans and tell me about their offense because I want to see this offense fixed because they're in the bottom half, actually bottom quarter of offensive efficiency.
Yeah, that was the first thing I was going to bring up. Their offense has not been good this season at all. And while you have individual brilliance from Zion and Brandon Ingram at times, it's been really inefficient overall. And one place you're going to want to look at first are the turnovers. They already have 15 turnovers a game. I mean, overall, numbers are not going to cut it. And just one issue where I see is when Zion drives to the paint, his ball security is at Taysom Hill level at times. Like it is ball on the ground. Sometimes the ball just flies in the air, just magically. I don't even know how it goes that high. Like it doesn't even look like it's been moved. Like I don't understand how it's been happening. And then there's just been really, really inefficient shooting performances from a lot of players. Lonzo's been hit or miss. Eric Bledsoe's been very hit or miss. Nico Alexander Walker's been hit or miss. And then JJ Redick's had some struggles shooting recently. And then Nico Melli can't hit a shot for his life. Uh, I think the funniest interview he's had is where he's like, yeah, people in New England, they say I'm good at basketball. Yeah, they're being nice. I don't see it personally. I'm like, yeah, you're right. He's a funny guy. Nico Belli is probably one of the best people on the team, but he cannot hit an NBA three. He still has to adapt from the Euro League. And this, I think a lot of the problem is spacing, and it's really congested offense. When you have, I mean, Stan's got the right idea trying to separate Zion and Brandon, but they have to have some more offensive identity because right now they don't really have an identity. It's give it to Brandon. Hopefully he can do something. If not, well, Steven or Zion will get the offensive rebound because they have 4.6 a game, both of them. I mean, both of them have been absolutely incredible on the offensive board. Zion's got 3.3, Steven's got 3.7. I mean, that's just absolutely incredible numbers on the offensive glass. And then Josh Hart's also a really good rebounder, 1.2 for himself. And I mean, they've been strong on the glass. They just have to have an identity. They have to be able to space the floor. There's just not a lot of off ball movement as well. They've been really quiet, just kind of standing still, seeing if Brandon can do something or not. So if they can get JJ going on some screens, get Nikhil going, get maybe some more Eric Bledsoe. He's been good on the dribble drive. He can get some penetration going. And then Alonzo's got to get some more playmaking going. But I think it starts with a lot of off-ball screens. I think that's what the team's really got to work on, just to get the players moving, just to get the passing lanes going, and just get this offense going. But what they have improved on is defense. They have almost as many games holding an opponent under 100 points as they did all of last season. I mean, they have been absolutely incredible in the defensive end. Steven Adams is a stud. 1.5 blocks, one and a half steals, one block. He's been absolutely incredible. Look at guys like Eric Bledsoe and Lonzo Ball. Both of them have the potential to be an all defensive player. You have guys like Nikhil Alexander Walker, who's just all effort, all energy. He's a kind of gritty guy. He was 1 from 5 last game from 3. So what did he do after the game? After a win, he stayed on the court and just played and just shot hoops the entire time. Zion and Brandon are just absolutely incredible basketball players. So this team's second in the West and struggling offensively. That just tells you how great this team is. Zion and Adams have changed just the interior of this defense and changed the culture there. I mean, it is grit. It is just tenacity. Everyone loves the team. Everyone loves Stan. And then what I love about Stan is he's honest. I mean, people ask him, I think one of the reporters asked him, why did the offense play better this game? And he's like, honestly, it's nothing that I did because there's no way whatever I did changed this offense. The players just played better. He's honest. I think the players like him. I mean, I don't know if you've watched much Pelicans basketball. I've watched pretty much every game, but it's a roller coaster sometimes. They'll be down 20, they'll be up 10, they'll be like tied. It's just a roller coaster all over the place. It's a crazy time watching the Pelicans.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, they usually start the season 0-5, so going 4-2 is just a breath of fresh air. It's absolutely incredible to see. It's fun watching Pelicans basketball, and if they can hit their stride offensively, there's no reason why they can stay as a top 4 seed in the West. They're number 2 while they're struggling, so who knows what they can do when they're like offensively thriving.
Yeah, and for such a young team, with Zion being the longest tenured player there and a new head coach, you expect a bit of a learning curve and some growing pains. But if you're 4-2 with those kind of growing pains, I think you're exactly right. Down the season, when it really matters, when you're fighting for that playoff spot, that's when they're going to hit their stride. And if they make it to the playoffs, they'll have some momentum running into it. So I'm excited to see New Orleans. They are obviously a fun team to watch. They have the most marketable player in the NBA, Zion Williamson. So we'll see a lot of attention in New Orleans. So moving on to another marketable player on a pretty good team. Now, it's kind of the opposite in Atlanta here. We are an amazing offense. I love it. Just seeing this team on offense makes me so happy. But then on defense, we're just god awful. Like it's just such a stark contrast. It makes me laugh sometimes. But offensively, Trey Young is having a historically great season. Just looking at the impact that he's made. I know last year a lot of people said that he was just putting up empty stats, but this year with the right players around him, he's shown that he can put up stats like that. He can be efficient, but then he makes his teammates better. He's absorbing defenses. That gives open looks for Reddish. That gives open looks for Bogey, for Gallinari. And Atlanta right now is second in offensive efficiency when last year they were 27th. So it shows that Trey Young is really the engine driving this team. He's shooting well, and most importantly, he's getting to the line. He averages more free throw attempts per game than the entire Toronto Raptors team as a whole, 15, and he's shooting them at a 90% clip, or an above 90% clip. So I don't think that's going to sustain. I don't think these numbers are going to sustain. There'll be a slight decrease in just everything kind of across the board once defenses start to figure them out a little bit. But I still expect Atlanta to be red hot on the offensive end, be a top 5 offensive team, going from dead last in 3-point percentage to third in 3-point percentage at 40%. It just shows the strides that Travis Schlenk has made as a GM. And I think that if they keep this up, if they're winning games, he should be the executive of the year because he made some ballsy moves. He made some really risky moves that a lot of people didn't agree with, but they've paid off. And he's really built this team around Trey Young, around his strengths. We haven't even seen Okongwu yet. We haven't seen Chris Dunn yet. We've seen limited action from Clint Capella. So I am really excited to see this team going forward. So on the defensive end, yeah, we're not great. We're at the bottom of the league. The fact that we're still 6th in net rating is something else that shows how good this offense is. But now that we have Capella back, he's been anchoring the defense with limited minutes. And when he's on the floor, there's a noticeable difference in the paint. Teams are fading out to the perimeter because Capella is feared there. He can get rebounds. He can get blocks. And so he has been great, and he has been the bright spot on a defense that otherwise has not been, not been that good. But when you have Onyeka Okongwu, who had Bam Adebayo defensive comparisons coming out of college, and then you have Chris Dunn, one of the best defensive guards in the league, coming back and taking that load off of Trey, taking that load off of Gallinari and John Collins, I think that our defense will not catch up to the offense, but hopefully be around the 16 to 18th range in the NBA. And with an offense that good and a defense around 16 to 18, I think you can get by.
So I got a question for you. So your two main offseason additions, Bogdanovich and Gallinari, have not been a very big impact on the team so far. So how big of an impact has Hunter and Cam Reddish's development been to the success of this team?
Well, I would say Bogdanovich has been a big impact on this team. He's just been shooting lights off.
Well,
But
not not last game.
Gallinari's been a little bit underwhelming at times, but he's been pretty efficient and he's been injury prone. He's been day to day. So there's that. Once he gets fully healthy, I think he'll get better. But Reddish and Hunter, I really love both of them. I even have a Cam Reddish t-shirt that I think I've worn on one of the episodes. I gotta figure that out. But I think that Hunter and Reddish, they've been inconsistent. But it's always that when Hunter is inconsistent, Reddish is red hot. And when Reddish is inconsistent, Hunter is red hot. Like Hunter has had 2 games where he shot above 70% from the field. And Reddish has just been at times explosive and running the offense as a wing. So he's been great. I think that they are still young and that youth does show. They make sloppy mistakes, especially Reddish in his playmaking. He's had a lot of easy playmaking looks that he's just avoided or that he's just messed up with a bad pass. So I'd like to see him patch that. But if they're playing hot and if they're playing hot together, I think that these two could definitely be the future starting wings, especially that now that Reddish is Gallinari is getting older and that Bogdanovich is he's on a 2-year deal. So if he demands more money and we can't afford him, then we have Hunter and Reddish to lay back on.
It was a longer deal than that.
I thought it was. Oh no, it was 4, right?
I think it's 470, right?
Yeah, 470. My bad.
Well,
But
anyways, I've been really impressed by Hunter. He has been defensively incredible. He has been just that. I mean, he's shut down Kyrie to a significant degree. I mean, what he's done defensively has been great. I think that you look at guys getting Capella back for this season was really influential. That 12 rebounds a game is really influential for a team that's not. I mean, he's the heartbeat of that defensive or that rebounding unit because there is no other guy on the team that's even close to his ability. Trae Young's been a great facilitator, and he has kept it relatively clean. I mean, only 3.8 turnovers. I mean, it's not awful, but it's not bad. So, so I think overall this team, I mean, their biggest improvement has been the jerseys. I always hated those Volt green jerseys. They've finally gone down to something simple, something classy, and they've played. They played at the level of their jerseys. They had good jerseys. They changed them. They played bad. They changed them again. They're playing well. So I see a pattern here. I like it. Hawks are playing well. They look good. And they also look good.
Yeah. The 2 other guys that I wanted to talk about are Rondo and John Collins. I'll talk about Rondo first. There have been times where when Rondo is leading the offense, he's done as good of a job as Trae Young. Being the facilitator, being the playmaker. He's even had the confidence to go out and shoot some threes, and he's been making them too. So I'm really happy that we signed Rondo. He's the perfect backup. And when Trae needs a break, I don't fear having, Brandon Goodwin in. As much as I like Brandon Goodwin, he's nowhere near of a level as Rondo is as a playmaker, as a leader, as a facilitator. So Rondo has been doing great. And Rondo and Reddish, when they're on the floor together in particular, I've seen Rondo kind of take Reddish under his wing and open up a lot of opportunities for Reddish, and that's where he thrives the most, if anything. And then the other guy that I got to talk about is John Collins. And this makes me so sad to say because me and you have met John Collins at an event. I have a shirt autograph from him that I will probably frame and put in a new setup behind me very soon. But as much as I love John Collins, I think he's got to go. He's not worth the Bam Adebayo and Fox money. I've said this for like 8 consecutive NBA episodes at this point. He turned down the $90 million extension, which was a really big blow because we need that money for Trae, for Hunter, for Reddish, for Herter. And I think that while 17 points is good, he's shooting 28% from 3. I'd like to see him have better 3-point numbers because he is a floor spacing big, in my opinion. He's only had 6.8 rebounds on the season when he's averaging double digit rebounds last year and the year before. I know there's Capella, there's Gallinari, and even DeAndre Hunter, but still, he plays a significant share of the minutes, so he's got to be getting rebounds. And then it's defense. When you take out Capella and put Collins in at the center, there is a just offenses know that, all right, the real deal is out. Collins is in. While he's athletic, we can get to the rim easier. And now they're forced less to take, risky threes, and they can just get to the paint easily because Collins is pretty passive on defense. I'd like to see him be more of an aggressive shot blocker. I'd like to see him crash the defensive glass more. And I'd like to see him crash the offensive glass even more too. So because of that, I think John Collins, he needs to go, unfortunately. But on whatever team he goes to, he'll make a big impact. Right now, I'm eyeing Miles Turner. He hasn't been shooting that well from three. I think that lowers his value a little bit. But since his value is lowered a little bit, that trade value is a little bit lowered, so we can get a good deal and maybe get another serviceable player in return from Indiana, Victor Oladipo. Victor Oladipo. So John Collins, a couple of assets. We could run a trade around Oladipo and Turner. I think that, well, as an Indiana GM, I wouldn't take that. I think that someone could take a trade around that level of assets because Collins is a very good offensive big man.
I mean, I bet you guys wish you guys had a Steven Adams because he'd be perfect for that team.
Oh my God, Steven Adams and Clint Capella.
That's
fearless.
That really would be. So we've only got a couple of topics left. We'll make this one quick because it's old news at this point. But Spencer Dinwiddie, partially torn ACL. He's going to miss the whole season, but they expect like a full recovery. It's good to hear it's only partial, obviously. That's makes it so much better for long-term health and just for the healing process in general. So what have you made of Spencer Dinwiddie's health?
So I really think this is a giant blow because when KD and Kyrie were out, Dinwiddie was the leader. He was taking the clutch shots. He led what now is the bench unit. Now that their starting unit has gotten a lot better, and he was just a vocal leader, a really good guy to have in the locker room. And so I think that presence will be missed a lot. If Kyrie and KD ever have a bad game, Dinwiddie would be that guy to step up, in my opinion. So his loss is just a big blow. But I think that we'll see some more minutes out of LeVert and Shamet. LeVert, as we know, is very good. Shamet's a good shooter. So I really hope that this doesn't have a big locker room blow because Spencer Dinwiddie, he speaks his mind and he can rally a team together, especially in the clutch. So now that you have KD and Kyrie there, it helps out a lot. But I think that Dinwiddie is such a big blow. And I think that out of everyone besides KD and Kyrie, having Dinwiddie hurt probably hurts the most.
Well, we'll move on to our final two topics. We're going to talk about the most surprising struggles in each conference. We have the Denver Nuggets and the Washington Wizards. Which do you want to start off with, Ishan?
Let's start off with Denver.
All right, so they have a clear issue, and this is one of the clearest reasons why a team is struggling. The Warriors is more ambiguous. This one is clear cut. They are the worst defense in the entire NBA. Despite being the fourth best offense, they are 1-5, sitting 15th in the NBA and in the Western Conference. They are surprisingly the second, or they are joint worst, or they are joints tied for worst in the entire NBA. So what have you made of the Nuggets start of the season so far, and what can they do to address their defensive woes?
I think that losing Jeremy Grant is a big blow. And then obviously Paul Millsap, who is definitely an anchor, regressing hurts a lot. I think that it's a lot more about, contesting the shots. They are second to last in opponent true shooting percentage, which means that from all over the floor, opponents are able to shoot efficiently against them. And so I think that they need to make some kind of trade or get some of their better defensive role players into the system because Michael Porter Jr., they're in a really tough spot with him. you need to either play him 30 minutes and make him the offensive talent that he is, give him that time, or you just need to get rid of him. Because right now, playing him like 20, 25 minutes a game and him not playing that well because he doesn't have that opportunity to really blossom is hurting the team because he's not that good of a defender. But if you play him a little bit more and he gets things going and he ramps up the offense a little bit, that can, to some extent, offset some of their defensive woes. So number one, they need to go all in on Michael Porter Jr. Number two, they need to address something in the defense. Will Barton wants out, so use him to get some kind of defensive guard or defensive wing specialist. And then I will say one thing: Skinny Jokic has been amazing on offense. So the offense is there. It could even be better with Michael Porter fully unleashed. But now it's using the assets that they have because they have a lot of them to address that defense and making the right trades to improve on the defensive end of the court. Because if you're not a good defense, you're not making it far in the playoffs.
No, that's one of the things that you have to talk about. Their three best players, Murray, Jokic, and MPJ, are not defensive stalwarts. They are not a defensive unit at all. You think putting Bull in for more minutes would do anything on the defensive end just because of his shot blocking ability, or do you think he'd be more of a liability than addition?
I don't think. I think he would probably hurt a little bit, just because he's not that a defensive upgrade over Plumlee. But yes, in terms of pure block numbers, he will definitely be able to alter shots at the rim. He'll be able to block shots, but his mobility worries me a lot because if you have a floor spacing big that fades him out to the perimeter, then there are issues there because then that big could just blow right past him. He's not the most mobile.
I mean, that comes with different. I mean, for being 7'2", he is really mobile. But for being an NBA player, for being a center, he is not.
Yeah.
Like if you had Zion Williamson playing the center, I mean, that would be one of the worst mismatches on both ends of the floor. I mean, Zion can't stop. I mean, he's got a 44-inch vertical, so maybe he can. But I mean, Bull can't do anything to stop the charging Zion. I mean, I don't think anyone can at this point. But I think that they need to make a trade at some point. I don't know who that's going to revolve around. Probably Will Barton, just because of his disgruntled nature and being the bench player. Who would you see as a potential trade partner to give them a defensive stalwart to really help this team out?
So if they want to go the big route, I think Miles Turner is probably the clear-cut option. And then on the wings, if Golden State's really disgruntled with Oubre, that could be an option right there because he has that defensive energy. And then on the defensive guard end, I'm not too sure right now. I don't know who's really available because I think we're going to be holding on to Chris Dunn, and he's the only one that I can see really leaving his team because Marcus Smart and Drew Holiday aren't going anywhere anytime soon.
Lonzo and Bled aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, so I think it'll be tough to find a guard, but I think there are some bigs and a couple of wings available like Oubre and Turner that could, maybe be trade targets. Because I also have RJ Hampton too. He is a great offensive player, not a great defensive player, and he could be expandable. I don't know if they want him to be expandable because he has a lot of potential, but he could be expandable.
I think they're going to want to hold on to him to just maximize his value, just like they did with MPJ and with Bull. Take him low, sit him, develop him slowly, and then get the value. Or not get the value, but at least half value on him. Because Bull's value would be next to nothing after 5 games of the NBA season last season. Michael Porter Jr.'s value would be pretty much the exact same as it was coming out after 5 games of his rookie season. So I think they got to hold on. They got to trade a Will Barton or something like that. Maybe if they want to do something blockbuster, Jamal Murray is probably the only name that they could probably shift off because they're not going to trade Jokic. They're probably I wouldn't trade MPJ. I think Murray, if they really want to just change their identity, just go something completely crazy. I think he could be a name. I wouldn't see it happening.
Maybe Gary Harris too.
You think Oladipo could be an option for them?
Yeah, if they do something around like Harris and Barton and a couple picks.
Yeah, that could be an option. So let's move on to the other struggling team. This is the worst team in the entire NBA. 1-5, the only team 1-5, the Washington Wizards. And they've been pretty good. They lost by 3 to the Bulls. They lost by 8 to the Bulls. They lost by 7 to the Magic, 10 to the Magic, and then they kept it really close to the Sixers. That was an awesome game to watch. That was really fun on opening night. They lost by 6 to the Sixers in the opening night game, 113 to 107. They should have won that game, in my opinion, too. They were
Yeah.
better for most parts of that game. So, what's been the issue? Because statistically, Beal and Westbrook have been great.
I think it's coaching. Scott Brooks, especially in the late game, has pulled some Alvin Gentry type stuff, just being completely disorderly and not really, maximizing the potential of the talent that he has, because the talent is definitely there. And then the other issue is defense, not the best defensive team. I'm going to say it again, just because he's on the market and just because he's been a defensive force. Miles Turner is always available because you have some heavy-footed, not really mobile, not really good defensive shot blocking bigs on that team. So I think that Miles Turner could be him and Thomas Bryant. You could have Thomas Bryant as the offensive big, Miles Turner as a defensive big, and they can both space the floor relatively well. So I'd like to see Turner go somewhere else from Indiana if he's really requesting a trade, because there are a lot of teams in the market for a 3-and-D big. And on the defensive end, he really brings that out. 4 blocks, 2 steals as a center is something else. So I think that defense, coaching, and then they need to do something quick, because either fire Scott Brooks, make the trade, because if Bradley Beal requests a trade, which there have been rumors for, then this whole team is going to implode, because Bradley Beal is that number one scoring guy. He's a microwave scorer, and he offers so much floor spacing for Westbrook that if Beal is gone, this team is just going to be like another OKC type team where they're not really going anywhere.
I would love it. The Pelicans have been constantly in the league with Bradley Beal for about the past 3 seasons. I mean, it's been all the time. We don't have a microwave scorer. He would be the answer to the team. This would be like the next step. If you're the Pelicans, would you target Beal or Harden with the assets that you have, or would you keep and hold, or wait for someone that's more in your development timeline?
Let's see. I think Harden obviously is great. He comes with a lot of baggage though, and I kind of question the fit a little bit.
And age, I mean, they do not fit the timeline at all. He's what, over 10 years, decade older than Zion Williamson.
Yeah, that's crazy. But I think that Beal, he's obviously going to be less of a burden in terms of giving up assets. And now that they do have the assets from Milwaukee, and Milwaukee, I guess your hope is trending on a downwards path, then those assets could be a lot more valuable. But I would honestly wait until the offseason, if anything, because right now it's been 6 games, and I think at the deadline, they're going to be asking for a little bit more than normal. So I think that you wait till the offseason, see what Beal really has to say about the team. If he's disgruntled and he really wants out, they make a last-second pursuit, and hopefully they don't have to give up as much.
What would you see a potential package costing for Beal? A Jackson Hayes, Nikhil, and maybe 2 firsts?
Yeah, I think Lonzo or Hayes, Nikhil, and probably 2 firsts and maybe a second.
I would be happy parting with Lonzo. One, I don't want to pay him going forward because he's going to be asking for a fair chunk of cash. So if you could trade him by the deadline and get Beal, who's only 27, I think that gets you a lot of versatility, because you'd have your point guard in Bledsoe, your backup in Nikhil, then you have microwave scorer, Brandon Ingram, Zion, Steven Adams. I mean, that is one of the scariest lineups. Well, that'll conclude it for Triple Threat Podcast today. Anything else you want to add before we finish, Ishan?
No, not really, but definitely check out the website, check out the Patreon. We have a Mikal Bridges article coming up too, and I know Will has some NFL content that he's going to be putting on the website, so definitely go check that out. Like, subscribe, comment your thoughts. That's really it.
Well, I hope you had a good one. I hope you enjoyed listening to the podcast. As always, my name's William and Ishan. Take care. Branding for MVP.